Chris Gabriel has over 30 years of leadership in philanthropy and finances and is uniquely able to advise on the topic of inspired and effective giving through a process he's created called WISEgenerosity. Chris oversees a thriving wealth management practice with a focus on what he calls optimal giving that combines philosophy and finance. Chris is here today to share more from his outstanding new book, WISEgenerosity. Let go. Chris Gabriel, welcome to Uncommon Philanthropist.
Oh, thank you so much, Rena. What a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I've been anxiously awaiting this day. I've been reading your amazing, amazing book, WISEgenerosity, and I've enjoyed it so much. And I feel like I've found a kindred spirit in you that we're very much aligned with what we're trying to do and inspiring other people to engage in philanthropy. You call it generosity. So thank you for being here and sharing from your heart and your significant knowledge. And you have such an interesting life story. So why don't we start there?
Well, I'm very thankful to enjoy many blessings in my life, and part of this project came about in part because of reflection in midlife about what was important and what I was called to do in service to others and to the world at large, and realized that there were really four things that mattered in my life: my faith, my family and friends, my professional work, and my service in the community. And while all those weren't equally important, they were all essential to the fabric of who I was. And this Wise Generosity project came about in part because of a desire to integrate those different areas together more fully. So I grew up in a wonderful house with great parents and a younger brother, mostly in the Hudson Valley area of New York. Met my lovely wife in Washington, D.C., where at the time I was doing nonprofit fundraising and public policy work. She announced as we were getting to know each other that she was moving back south. I was welcome to come along. Otherwise, it was nice knowing me. And so that led to us getting married and moving here about 26 years ago to Atlanta, where we started a life together, started new careers. Uh, I work in the wealth management space, running a practice that focuses on giving and generosity, working with both individuals and families who prioritize giving, and also working with nonprofit organizations, helping them be good stewards of resources and raise more money by connecting with their donors more effectively. So that path started, and our family, we have two wonderful kids and two tiny dogs, and all of that led about 12 years ago to that inspiration to start this project that became WISEgenerosity. And really thankful for that and the incredible opportunities it's provided to learn more about myself and more about this essential value and quality of human life, and to meet amazing people like you. So thank you again, Rena. It's really a pleasure to be part of this platform that you've built and to have this conversation today. So thank you.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for that. And that's so interesting. And for me, I always like before a change, there's a restlessness of spirit. It's like you can feel something is brewing, something. I mean, I just get restless. Did you find that before you got the seed of an idea for generous giving?
Yes, that's a great question. And the answer is absolutely yes. Just felt that, again, there are these forces at work, these things that matter to me, these priorities, sort of asking those deep questions. So who am I and why am I here and what am I supposed to do in life? And that was, there was a sense of restlessness, as you put it, and the sense that there was more that I could be doing that would be beneficial to me and to others. And that started that journey of questioning, and the answer came back as clearly as it could, that I was called to be a missionary for generosity. And so I didn't know what
Yeah.
that meant exactly. All I knew that there was there was a book involved. I always had in mind that I'd write a book at some point, and never had any idea what it was going to be about. And so it was that moment of clarity that started the rest of that, those wheels turning, so to speak, that led into this project. My wife would
So
roll her
cool.
eyes if she were a part of this conversation and point out that it took a good long while. And in my
That's
defense, I
right.
point out that this was really a hobby for quite a long time until it became something more like a practical effort. But that was the catalyst, that sense that I could be doing more and could be more happy, more enlightened, and more fulfilled in the process. So you are exactly right to put your finger on that.
Yeah, and God's timing is never our timing. His timing is never fast. It takes a
That's right.
long time. Sometimes it just takes a long time, and you have to be willing to be patient and to wait it out, and patience is a fruit of the Spirit, and it's highly driven, successful people really have a hard time with being patient, and I think a lot of times He just puts us on pause for a reason. It's like, the concept is still cooking.
Well, the two
Sometimes
prayers
it takes time.
almost daily in this entire journey have been, am I supposed to be doing this? And the answer has continued to be yes. And the second has been, where's it going? And the answer is, you'll find out. So
Sure.
I think that's true of life in general, but all along the way there have been continued reinforcements, and call them God winks, just the
Mhm.
right people showing up at the right time, the right idea, the right gift of the Spirit in the right way at the right place. And so it's been an exciting adventure, and I feel that way as it continues. So
Yeah. Well,
thank you
did
again for providing a fun milestone in the journey.
Sure. Well, didn't one of your friends say that Chris got a download from God?
Yeah. Uh,
That
I
was
think
awesome.
people interact with the Lord in different ways. And I think my experience, at least, has been the more receptive I've become to the promptings of the Holy Spirit, the more promptings there have been. And so this whole journey began, as the book introduction says, at a particular moment in time in a place while I was driving back from Orlando and had been asking that question. And was listening to one of the early Be Rich sermons by Andy Stanley. And that
Pastor.
prompt, that question that I had been asking, what am I supposed to be doing? It came back about as clearly as it could with this answer that generosity was meant to be the focus of my life in all four of those dimensions. And that was the first of many gifts of the Spirit that have come since. And so, yes, there was a receptiveness to that. And then, since sometimes those gifts have come unexpectedly, and in the middle of the night seems to be a common theme, multiple times, so woken up at 5 in the morning with full ideas in my head that the Spirit put there. And that's what my friend joked, the downloads from God. And they don't come all the time, certainly, but when they do come, it's an unmistakable sense of, oh, wow, that's something special, and I feel a real sense of gratitude. And so there have been particular moments in the project, certain concepts, certain resources that we're building that really came, I think, very directly through that form of inspiration. So I don't
Yeah.
know if other listeners have had a similar experience, but that's been part of this whole journey. Is again God being the good provider and the good giver of gifts, and those gifts have been plentiful. Much to be thankful for on that front.
Yeah. Well, I always like to start with people's story and specifically, kind of the germination of a big idea because, I think it kind of helps others who may be, kind of in that spirit of restlessness. Well, what did it look like for you? And it's different for each of us. And for me, Uncommon Philanthropist was I was definitely inspired by the teachings of Andy Stanley and the Be Rich initiative that North Point is my church, and it's just incredible how I think that it's been going on for 10 years now, and
Mhm.
we dedicate, a season each year where we give, serve, and love, and, kind of my restlessness is like, how do we take this outside the walls of the church to invite other people to the table of giving and philanthropy and generosity? It's not an exclusive club, and for me, I
Absolutely.
landed on philanthropy, meaning love of humanity, and you landed on generosity. I'd like to know why kind of that was your platform that you picked.
It again, it was. I don't know if I really chose it as much as it chose me. It just seemed that that was the theme, the thread that had woven through my life in different ways. And that moment of inspiration came in the form of a stream of consciousness. It was like almost like an out of body experience that people talk about if they're near death. which
Mm,
thankfully I was not, although I was on I-75 at the time, which you might count as being near death at any moment. But it was just like the sense of life flashing before my eyes in a way, and there was a vision of people and places and experiences, all of which related back to this theme of generosity. People who had been generous to me, people who had been generous in building institutions and organizations that I had been part of, and this sense of gratitude and the sense of opportunity
mm,
and even responsibility to recognize those blessings and then frame them in a way, to your point about uncommon philanthropist, that made the point as powerfully as I could that this is a essential virtue for a life
mm.
well lived, and it's
Yes.
something that is a gift that we are given as well as gifts that we give, that's available and accessible to anyone at any age and stage of life, and that we all benefit by being givers and in turns by being good receivers of gifts. And so there's a reciprocity in the act of giving that is essential to life across these five different dimensions that I came to appreciate that constituted generosity. So there's the monetary aspect of it, which is possessional generosity.
Mhm.
Again, sort of those types of resources. But that's just the first of five different types. And the second is personal generosity, which is time and talent. The third is
Uh-huh.
social generosity, which is everything from hospitality and good manners to civic duty and community engagement. And then getting closer to home, you've got emotional generosity,
Mm,
accessibility and vulnerability, and really being truly engaged with people around you. And then lastly is relational generosity, which in
mhm.
essence is life itself,
Yeah.
which exists in the form of all the relationships that we have. And those other four elements feed into those relationships: possessions, personal gifts, social interaction, and emotional attachment. And so all of that became part of this framework. And again, these were just little milestones and revelations and realizations that came along in the process about how all those different pieces were part of my life and were really part of everyone's lives. And that the path to achieving happiness, enlightenment, and fulfillment came about through this channel, perhaps more strongly than any other in all of our human nature. So, all of those were some of the underlying elements that were at work in this focus on generosity.
Yeah, Chris, it's just the way you present, it's so accessible and understandable, but it's really deep, well thought through concepts that, I mean, you can just tell that you have been living in this space, living, breathing, praying about what exactly is generosity. And I think even like a lot of people, our language around the whole sphere of giving, serving, whatever, a lot of times people say, I need to go volunteer or I have to go volunteer. And it's like, it's not that at all. Or I need to give more. The gifts are just so extraordinary in what you give in return. So I think our language and just around the whole thing, it just hopefully we can help usher in kind of a new way to even reframe some of this talk because I think it makes it more accessible and attractive to people who haven't had a chance to experience it all.
Well, you've already done a marvelous job with that, Rena, and I enjoyed other episodes of this series and fascinating people that you've spoken with. Again, it's an honor to be a part of that group, and I think the point is very well taken. I love that love of humanity that you talk about. That's the root of philanthropy. In the Wise Generosity framework, philanthropy is one of three different elements of generosity, sort of what you might call expressions of generosity. And those three are kindness, charity, and philanthropy. And kindness, the book points out, is really the essence of almost all of the authentic happiness and joy that we experience in life
Mhm.
comes from being kind and from having other
Yes.
people be kind to us in ways large and small. Obviously, kindness is not the province of the wealthy or the well established or the rich and famous. The kindness is something that each of us has an opportunity to do every day, and each of us benefits from every day. And that being a building block that leads to some of these other types of engagement with others, that to me was an important revelation, is how simple and accessible real giving is, and how important it is to the human experience and
Yeah.
to the quality of life that we each enjoy. And as people of faith, how essential it is to understanding the nature of our relationship with God and with others. If those are our two primary responsibilities as disciples of Jesus, to love God and love others,
Yeah.
generosity, philanthropy, kindness, all of these different ways of expressing that underlying sense
Mhm.
of selfless sharing and giving with others is really the essence of our faith and what we're called to do as believers. And what a joy it is to do that. How amazing it is that our primary responsibility is something that brings such joy to us and to others. How great God is that He's made us this way in His image and given us this assignment, in effect, which is to go and be like Jesus.
I
So
know. It's all.
it gets me excited just to think about it.
So this is your book, Wise Generosity, and how many years was it in the making, Chris?
Again, I roll from my lovely wife. The short answer is 10 years from that moment of inspiration to the book actually being published, which was early last year. I, Along the way, I actually wrote a manuscript, put it aside. It was a lot of research and reflection and some various different paths taken. But they say that the destination itself is perhaps less important than the journey, and I think that was true in this case. If no one else reads this or gets anything out of it, it's been an incredibly worthwhile and transformational project for me personally, and I'm just grateful to have had this opportunity and for all the people like you who have been a part of it.
Mm. Well, that I guarantee that will not be the case. There is so much great information in here if you are just beginning your generosity journey or someone who is well versed. It is an incredible read, and I love some of the comments. Let's see, Joshua Seftel, who I'm not familiar with, a Academy Award-winning nominated director and producer. He says, "Good stories are the best way of sharing wisdom. Wise generosity is filled with inspiring people demonstrating what it means to be fully human. Like a great movie, you will learn a lot about others, about yourself, and about life itself." Who knew generosity could cover so much ground? So I'm anxious to get into some of that kind of the high
Sure.
level detail of wise generosity. First of all, what makes generosity wise? What is your brand that you've labeled wise generosity?
One of the underlying principles that I've come to adopt in my own life, and one of the essential messages of wise generosity is that giving is this amazing virtue, has this incredible value in our lives, and is perhaps a unique human behavior in that if it's done wisely and well, there can't be too much of it. If you think of most other virtues, there's a state at which you can overdo them, but that's really not true for giving. You can't be too generous and that's the qualifier, if it's done wisely and well. And so defining what wise generosity is was important to the message. And that definition of wise breaks down into an acronym. WISE stands for well grounded, W, inspired, I, satisfying, S, and effective, WISE. And that well grounded, inspired, satisfying, and effective giving is really the essence of what makes a gift resonate with that 360-degree transformational benefit that true effective giving has. And so two of those elements of wise giving are internal. So those are things that inspire us as
Mhm,
givers, the I, and then in turn we find those gifts satisfying. I think about a present. If you've picked out an amazing gift for someone you love, and
mhm.
you just know that they're going to love it. You can't wait for their birthday or for Christmas. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like it's burning a hole in
So
wherever you've
fun.
kept it. It's got to like break out of the wrapping paper, and you just can't wait to share it with them because you know how excited they're going to be and how much they're going to appreciate it. That internal sense of anticipation that you have relates to the inspiration and the satisfaction you get when they've opened the present and you see their face light up and you realize that they're going to love and enjoy it the way that you intended for them to. That's just an incredible feeling. There's not much in life that is better. But in order for that to happen, there are the external dimensions of wise giving as well. The giving needs to be well grounded and effective. well-grounded, meaning that it's got to be based thoughtfully on resources that are at hand, on what's going to be the most beneficial to whoever it is that you're giving to. And ultimately, if you've lined those things up and the recipient of the gift does their part to put it to use in the way that you've intended, then the gift will be effective. And so, again, there's this dynamic between the giver and the receiver, and all of these different elements that go into making a gift truly wise. So, I think to your earlier point, those are underlying elements of wisdom itself that relate to faith, but just are broadly applicable in all value systems and philosophies and spiritual disciplines. These common elements are true throughout all of human life. And so we're tapping into something that's really essential about the human condition in your focus on philanthropy, which I think is a wonderful gift for your audience. And again, hopefully some of the perspective in Wise Generosity can help to make that even clearer for folks who are listening, and folks who pick up the book and go through it.
Yeah. Well, and it's about so much more than writing the check or making the donation. That's really kind of the starting point. And I think we think money is, money can fix everything, and it really can't. It's necessary for nonprofits, but a lot of times they need, think of like your full inventory that you have to bring, connecting organizations with other like-minded donors. I mean, that is huge. And we all know people who can serve in some way. I belong to the Rotary Club of Alpharetta, and there's a tremendous gentleman named Steve Beecham who is just a great connector in our community, and he belongs to Rotary, and he loves live music, so he does these live concerts in downtown Alpharetta that, they're Chastain style event. And we just had one a couple of weeks ago, and Lighthouse Family Retreat was the beneficiary. And it was the whole process was just Lighthouse raised a whole bunch of money. Rotary raised money, but the event was so fun just to be together in community. The awareness we created in the community about Lighthouse and the work they do for families living through childhood cancer. It just was wonderful on so many levels. And, if you're missing out, start looking for ways to get connected, because chances are, somebody who may be doing some of this. Let's have coffee. I'd love to pick your brain about how to get involved. Because I think a lot of it starts with just being curious.
Well, the definition of generosity in this Wise Generosity framework is considerate attitude plus caring action. So
Mhm.
again, there's something internal. It's about how we feel and how we think. And a lot of that is learned behavior. Make the point that giving is natural, but it's not normal. It's something
Mhm.
that we have to, so it's like a muscle we need to exercise the same way that we
Sure.
build up our stamina and ability to do physical activity. And it starts with something small that you're in, helping a neighbor or participating in an event like the one that you described, and it leads to a point of connection, which in turn leads to more. There is this sort of spectrum of engagement for giving, and it starts small. And again, it's something that anybody at any age and stage of life can do. Wise Generosity is filled with stories, as you said before, and each of the chapters has a hero, someone who demonstrates most amazingly the qualities that are being described in the different chapters, different aspects of generosity and different frameworks for understanding it better. And this wasn't deliberate so much as it just was a natural outgrowth of the way the book came together. But those heroes are an amazingly diverse group of people, young and old, from all different walks of life and circumstances. And they demonstrate for us the incredible power of giving and the impact that it can have on our lives, on the lives of people around us, on society, and on the world as a whole. Again, giving has this incredible transformational quality to it, unlike any other human behavior, in that it does just that. It changes the giver for the better. It changes the receiver for the better. It changes the community and the society of which they're a part for the better. And ultimately, it changes the world for the better. It's like the ripple effect, that butterfly flaps its wings idea. Something small happens somewhere that radiates out into the world and does good. One of my favorite stories in the book is one along those lines. was from a school out west, and went and spoke with the headmaster at that school, which had a reputation for being particularly effective in engaging with its community. It's a Christian school. It's stayed anonymous because some of the people that were involved wanted to remain private in terms of the giving that they had done. But the head of the school relayed this story to me about how a girl in eighth grade switched schools because she'd been so miserable at her prior school and came in the middle of the year to this new school. And she was welcomed that first day in the classroom, which had a prayer, had a morning prayer. And there was a boy in the class who raised his hand and said, let's say a special prayer to welcome the new girl. Uh, you can imagine switching schools in eighth grade, like how incredibly
Yeah.
difficult that would be. And so here she was made to feel welcome, that sort of warmth and hospitality extended through the rest of that day and beyond. And she really found a place for herself in this new environment, which was wonderful. And she was telling her family that story and how much she loved this new school that she was part of. An aunt and uncle of hers who didn't have kids of their own were really impressed by that and made an appointment to go see the headmaster. Said, we really like what you're doing here. We're actually not even Christians, but we've done some homework. We see all the good that the school is doing in the community. We see that you've got a partnership with a local public school. This is amazing sharing of resources. And we'd like to do something in support of all that work that you're doing and in appreciation for the experience that our niece has had. And so they ended up talking through what that might be. And this couple agreed to fund a series of scholarships so that students from that public high school could attend the private Christian high school and then ultimately go on to college. They were paid for their college as well. And so the point is made in the book that all of that came about from a single small act of kindness on the part of an eighth grade boy. And untold lives are going to be changed as a result of the ripple effect from that one act of kindness. It gives me goosebumps because, again, each of us has the ability any moment of any day to do something that's going to have that kind of profound transformative effect in the world. And what an incredible opportunity that is. What an amazing blessing it is.
Chris, that is such a fantastic story.
So again, there's another concept in the book which will relate, I think, both to folks listening with a faith background and perhaps those who don't have one or are seekers or curious about giving and how it relates to faith. There's a concept you're well aware of, Rena, of stewardship
Mhm.
within the context of our faith. And ultimately, for believers, is this idea that everything that we have in life is a gift from God. Who we are, the circumstances that we were born into, our attributes and capabilities, the resources that we've been blessed with, everything. And ultimately, we have this obligation and opportunity to use those blessings for the benefit of others. And that's really the whole point of why we're here, which is reinforced by the fact that we don't take any of it with us. The
That's
only
right.
influence or impact that we have in the world is the influence or impact that we have in the lives of others, as in the case of that eighth grade boy, and the radiating ripple effect of that goodness as it as heads out into the world from us. And of course, the opposite is also true. So many acts of cruelty and things that do harm in the world likewise have residual effects that last for years in people's lives and beyond. And so it's really that choice that we make, again, to do what's natural. It's the way that God made us, but maybe isn't what's normal. It takes some effort and some thought. And one of the things I love about what you're doing is just reminding people of the fact that these are daily choices that we have and what
Yeah.
incredible opportunities that we have in ways large and small to benefit ourselves and those around us by being generous.
So true. And it's like we have one life. It's like make it a good one. And anything that is destructive or causes harm to others, I mean, it is not productive and it's not sustainable. People that just fuel off of, kind of that faucet of anger and wrong, it'll lead you on a downward spiral. America is still the land of opportunity. Are we perfect? No, but you have opportunities and a daily practice, and so many people they're willing to help. Should you just be creative in seeking out resources and not being content to live a life that is less than? So, in your book, you talked about the optimal giving triangle. What is that?
When we're talking about practical forms of giving and generosity and charity and philanthropy, whether that be time, talent, or treasure, in the case of treasure in particular, there are, in the case of significant gifts that many in this audience may be able to give, maybe do give, thinking about the way in which those gifts happen or should happen. The idea that there are three parties to any significant financial gift: the donors who are making the gift, the nonprofit organizations and ministries that are applying the gift in service to whatever mission or cause both the donor and the ministry are looking to support, or problem they're looking to solve. And then the professional advisors who support that effort and who provide, in many cases, the structures and the frameworks that are needed to make that gift happen with its maximum impact. One of the realizations in the course of this journey of writing Wise Generosity was recognizing that I had sat in each one of those seats at one point or another, as a volunteer and board member and donor, as a nonprofit fundraiser early in my career, working inside an organization, helping to make those connections with donors and raise the money that was needed to do the work that that organization was involved in. And then as a professional advisor, working both with generous clients and also working with the nonprofit organizations, helping them be able to effectively engage and then realize the benefits of the giving that's being done. Too often, I saw situations where gifts either didn't happen at all or didn't achieve their full potential because there was a lack of communication, coordination, and collaboration between those three parties in the optimal giving triangle. And so, to a significant degree, the whole platform of Wise Generosity is designed to help encourage that connectivity and help to offer resources and frameworks and tools that can be used to make the donor the hero of the story. It's ultimately their cause and their desire to do good in the world that the rest of the people involved are there to serve and support, but also helping the nonprofits to do their part even more effectively. And then likewise, helping to inspire and educate fellow advisors about how they can contribute to those conversations in ways that improve the outcomes for everyone involved. So that's a big part of the practical application of Wise Generosity, is being in the middle of those conversations and helping them take place to the maximum benefit of everyone.
So, we talked about how generosity is key to practical discipleship, that if you are a believer, a follower of Jesus, you should be doing. You should be generous and philanthropic. I think we kind of touched on that, and you described that very beautifully. So, I actually am going to read this question because I don't want to paraphrase
All
it and
right.
miss the meaning of it. And it speaks to the people of faith who are listening. So, as a person of faith, we must ask ourselves, what does love require of me?
Mm.
Because Jesus was very clear about the call on our lives to love one another and love God. For those of us who have discovered the wonder of philanthropy, or generosity as you call it really does translate to love. Generosity can be transactional in nature, but when it moves beyond transaction into love, that is when it gets really good. Tell us about your experience and love for City of Refuge in
Mm.
Metro Atlanta.
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful question about a cause near and dear to my heart. The heroes of Wise Generosity, the book, in many respects, are there are many, but the couple of Bruce and Rhonda Deal, Pastor Bruce, as he's well known, their story and the story of City of Refuge is told late in the book as a way of drawing together so many of these other themes and elements that we've been describing. In many respects, they're the most fully generous people I've ever met. They are personal heroes of mine. And their story of sacrifice and engagement and fulfilling the calling that God gave them to help those most in need in our community is really an amazing success story about how giving can be done at its best. It can be at its best, and when it's done both wisely and well. A City of Refuge, for those who don't know, or maybe who are outside of Atlanta, although increasingly the ministry has a national footprint, is a one-stop shop for people in crisis here in our community, located in the zip code that's the center of need in Atlanta, of the place where by any statistical measure you see the full effects and the damage and destruction done by systemic poverty and crime and addiction and despair and all of the pathologies that we see so much of in our society and reflect the broken world in which we live. Pastor Bruce had a call on his life that was unexpected and left the comfortable suburban life with the encouragement and support of his wife, Rhonda, and started ministering in the inner city in Atlanta when they had 4 and then 5 young girls. They lived in a rundown old a church building. He tells the story about how they were broken into 34 times. He was chased down the street in his underwear and people that were trying to kill him, stealing vehicles, and just quite a remarkable tale, but ultimately one of love. Your question is really reflected well in the fact that that understanding of love for God and love for others being at the root of the call that we have, particularly as followers of Jesus, and to see someone who so fully commits to doing that work. It's inspiring, and I can't do the whole City of Refuge story justice. Recommend to anyone listening that you look up the organization City of Refuge in Atlanta and learn more. Bruce has his own excellent book. It's just something of a memoir called Trust First, which I also commend to your attention. But it's really a story about putting people first, recognizing the dignity and the worth in every single person that we see, understanding that each and every person that we meet, from the most powerful and successful person in the world to the person that is most struggling and desperate, is a person made in the image of God, worthy of our complete respect and love. And how difficult it is to actually put that into practice, but how incredibly powerful and transformational the impact of love applied to need of the kind that City of Refuge deals with is really amazing. So the organization exists to produce light, hope, and transformation for folks, again, that need it most. And it's an incredible work that I've been blessed to be part of now for coming up on 20 years. And so it's been one of the great joys of my life. And certainly, I think it's fair to say that original feeling of integration that I felt that I was missing, back talking about where this project came about, the community service at City of Refuge, it was one of those 4 pillars. And seeing the work that was being done there and the impact that it was having, and feeling this sense of wanting to understand better for myself and for others how that work could be done, why it was done, what kind of impact it could have, led to this series of questions that are then reflected in the Wise Generosity book. Why do we give? How do we give? What do we give? When do we give? And where do we give? And just seeing that play out in the form of this real mission-focused leadership in giving that I had witnessed from Bruce and Rhonda Deal and the other folks that were involved in that ministry was really a central part of this whole experience and a main driver for what led ultimately to Wise Generosity. So those are my heroes, and it's an honor to be able to share their story. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, well, I have actually visited City of Refuge. I did not have the privilege of meeting Bruce Steele. He was not there that day, but the campus is just tremendous. And is it still an old school that they took over, the
It's an
current
old
campus? Tell us a
warehouse.
little bit about what goes
Yeah,
on
so it's
there.
another example of generosity in action. So, and again, the ways in which people can have a tremendous impact when, and I love that sort of your mission is to help us stretch our comfort zone when it comes to philanthropy and to be more purposeful and intentional about it. This story about how the City of Refuge campus came about is a great one. Uh, that little rundown church on 14th Street in Midtown Atlanta, where City of Refuge began, was quickly outgrown by the amazing ministry that they were accomplishing. And so they started looking for a bigger property with a vision of really being able to build out this one-stop shop for people in crisis that City of Refuge has become, which is a model, by the way, that's now being adopted in other places around the country and even in other parts of the world, because it's such a powerful model. And Bruce laughs because it's not some genius vision that he had. He didn't get the idea from an academic paper or something else. It was just lived experience and God's inspiration, followed by God's provision. Bruce is fond of saying, it's one of the great lessons I've learned from being there, that provision follows obedience. And Bruce is one of the most obedient people I've ever met. But in this case, the provision was a much larger piece of property. And City of Refuge at that point was a fledgling ministry with no money. And so Bruce called a realtor friend of his and said, I think we need to be located more in the center of need, more in this area where all of these difficulties are being experienced by the people who live there. See what you can do. And he came back and said, I found the perfect property. It's 8 acres, old warehouse, 5 acres under roof. It's 210,000 square feet on the corner of the block that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution had not long before called the most dangerous in Atlanta. And Bruce said, perfect. The property was for sale for about, I can't remember the exact figure, somewhere around $1.5 million. And Bruce said, call him up and tell him we'll take it for nothing. And that offer was
That's
politely
awesome.
declined at first. But Bruce was through that, and perhaps because of his audacity and God-given fearlessness when it came to his pursuit of this mission he had been given. Was introduced to the person who owned the property, who was an Atlanta property developer by the name of Malin Mims. Owned a lot of commercial property in various places around Atlanta. Mr. Mims came to know Bruce, came to know his heart, his passion, his mission, and ultimately, after some conversation, took Bruce's offer and gave the property free and clear to City of Refuge. Bruce found out later, in fact, that there was a mortgage on the property that Mr. Mims actually paid off in order to be able to donate it. And later in his life, as
Mm,
he was able to witness what City of Refuge had become, he
it's
told
amazing.
Bruce that it was outside of his family, the thing that he was proudest of that was most important that he had done in his life. And so you see the way in which, again, this is radiating ripple effect from
Yes.
someone who has this level of commitment, this zeal for giving, that Bruce and Rhonda live passionately, and able to bring others into their orbit and inspire them to do things that might be uncomfortable or nonsensical. It's a valuable asset. Gave away to a stranger for nothing. In fact, it actually
Uh,
cost him money to donate the property, and in turn, that acres and now expanding out into the neighborhood around City of Refuge has been able to produce this transformational impact with housing, job training, a school, a medical clinic, thousands and thousands of people whose lives have been transformed by that gift, and all the other people who have invested in that ministry and have grown it into something that's not just a source of light, hope, and transformation in Atlanta, but is an inspiration to others around the country and in the world who are adopting similar methods and models. So back to the idea of ripple effects, this is a really powerful instance in which something became possible because of the philanthropy of someone who was willing to meet a need. So it's a great
yes.
story, and thank you for letting me share it.
Well, maybe you'll be kind enough to connect me with Mr. Deal, Pastor Deal. I would love to
Absolutely.
have him on here and share this story. He is very, very well respected by a lot of people with what he's done at City of Refuge. Such an amazing story. Okay, so in addition to your book, you have an amazing website that's complimentary with lots of great resources. Tell us a little bit about where people can learn more, can connect with you, and some of the tools available on your website.
Yeah, thank you. Again, it's wisegenerosity.com. The website, in addition to information about the book and the platform that we're building, does have several resources that are available for folks who are interested in learning more about wise generosity. There's a companion guide for the book itself as people are reading it, able to take notes and reflect on the content that's inside. There's a discussion guide for people who are in small groups, whether it's a Sunday school or a book club or a church small group. Content was definitely written with that type of audience in mind. Material's accessible. Hopefully, it's interesting. It's broken up into 28 chapters, I think. So you get good bite-sized bits to reflect on as you go, if you don't want to absorb it all in one big chunk. And there's a Bible study guide as well. This project was inspired by faith and the desire to reflect Jesus in a very tangible, practical way. But it also recognizes the fact that you don't have to be a follower of Jesus to be generous. And there are many people who are inspired by other value systems or other life experiences to be generous. So the book was written for as broad an audience as possible, but it very much rests on biblical principles. And so that Bible study guide is there in the resource section. to help folks, again, in a small group or in their personal study, to appreciate all of the concepts and biblical teachings that are behind each of the principles that's represented. In addition, and perhaps most interestingly, and this is perhaps where you were going with the observation about the website in the first place, we make available a very useful resource on the wisegenerosity.com website, which is called your generosity personality type. And there's a 7-question quiz that anyone can go and take. It takes a minute. And in turn, you will come to know which of the 4 generosity personality types you are primarily. And that is a great way to better understand yourself and the kind of giving that you're going to find most powerful and productive. It's great to compare with your spouse or loved ones or members of your family or people that you're involved in projects with, like boards of directors and church groups and whatnot. And that is a tool that we hope to build into something that becomes used everywhere. It is one of the components of a resource that we're bringing out starting later this year called Personal Giving Identity, which is meant to be like a Myers-Briggs test for giving. Something that you use. It's a diagnostic and assessment that helps you learn what kind of giver you're called to be, as a way of, again, knowing yourself better and also of helping the other people that you're engaged with in the area of giving know you better and be able to be even more able to provide opportunities for giving that are going to be wise, well-grounded, inspired, satisfying, and effective. And so that's a resource that we're making available through lots of different partners and other organizations, and hope to see that take root and spread all across the country and beyond. That's our goal. So you can get a little taste of that with the Generosity Personality Types Assessment. And if you're interested in learning more, there's contact information for us and the Wise Generosity team at the Wise Generosity website. The email address is hello@wisegenerosity.com, and that'll put you in touch with folks who can help you learn more about all these different resources and how they might be available to you and to the groups that you're part of, your church, the nonprofits or mission organizations that you're part of, et cetera. These are all resources that we're hoping to share as widely as possible.
Well, and I took the assessment. You were kind enough to share the link with me, and I enjoyed it very much. You made it fun and not too detailed. Some of those tests to me are kind of onerous. I'm like, a little bit of needles in the eyes, but this was really fun, and I believe my assessment was fantastic. So
Well, I
my
appreciate you
individual
doing that. Thank you,
PGI,
Rena.
it said I'm expressive, people helping, intuitive, and compassion, and I think that's just check, check, check. I'm like,
Uh,
"Yeah, that's spot on." So, what a wonderful tool to have for people as they begin their generosity journey or they continue. So, I think
well,
it's
and
gonna be very
kind of
well
tie a
received.
couple of threads of the conversation together for the listeners who are thinking about, wow, that sounds interesting. I have no pride of ownership in any of this content. I feel it's all been a gift that's been given to me, and I feel a responsibility and an opportunity and a sense of joy about being this messenger, this missionary for generosity. You noted before the joke from my friend about getting downloads from God. And as you're thinking about things that you're involved in, that maybe you have an opportunity to step into, and you're not really sure where that's going to go, but you're willing to make that first step and then find out where it goes. Uh,
Mhm.
I encourage everyone to have that journey of philanthropy and take that next step in front of them, whatever it is. In my case, there's this 10-year process to get this book out into the world. And I'll be honest, when the book was published,
Your
uh,
wife must be home.
yes.
I hear dogs
Yes.
barking in the background.
I'm in
Love it.
my walled off area here, but yes, I think it's my daughter arriving back from her first ever job as a summer intern. She's enjoying that experience. But the kind of tying a couple of those different threads together and reflecting on that personal giving identity resource that going forward, I think is going to be the centerpiece of this entire platform and program, and is the part of it that has the most opportunity to do the most good in the world. But
Mhm.
back when the book came out, it sort of felt like the end of this long journey and wasn't sure what was next. And so there was a bit of a sense of emptiness and not really sure where do we go from here. And I knew that there was going to be an opportunity to have conversations like this with wonderful people like you and to get out and spread this message out into the world and do some speaking and teaching and visit churches and other things that have come about as a result of having a book. But wasn't really clear about where that was going. And perhaps the biggest download in all of this experience happened in April of last year, a couple months after, when I woke up 5:30 in the morning with that fully formed idea in my head, just a direct gift from the Lord saying, yes, you did all of this, but here's really what I have in mind is this tool, and here it is. It's got these 4 components to it. They're all elements that you describe in the book, and here's how you're going to put those together, and here's where that's going to go. And then providing the resources to actually build out that assessment and build the technology behind it and apply for a patent for it and do all these other things that have gone along with that, which, again, this was not some brilliant brainwave on my part. It was just a direct gift from above, and the sense of opportunity and excitement that goes along with having a gift and knowing that it's something that you can use to bless others with, and being given that assignment and opportunity. I think back to that idea of Christian stewardship, that's one of the most amazing things that God provides for us as his children, is he draws us into the work that he's doing and equips us and empowers us to be his hands and feet in the world. And if we listen and accept that call for whatever he's saying to us in our life, what an incredible blessing that is.
Yeah. And I think as humans, we kind of look at beginnings and ends, but a lot of times God's just like, I'm just getting started here.
That's
Hold
exactly
on.
right.
Hold on. We got another layer. We got another chapter. It's like we're just getting started. And that is awesome. Well, I wrap up these conversations with my tagline is let go, not let's go, let go. So, Chris, give me a rousing let go, and then just using your best minister of generosity, help us understand what letting go and wise generosity, what that means. Wrap it up for us. Go
Uh,
ahead.
and I think the let go that I would offer to our audience is to let go of this mistaken idea that giving and generosity and philanthropy are just the province of other people and not something that we all have the opportunity to embrace and to experience that transformation in our own lives. I think our society has done us all a great disservice by equating giving with either the saintly or the rich and powerful. And so if you're not Mother Teresa and if you're not Bill Gates, then what's the point? None of this is really for me. And nothing could be farther from the truth. And if you'll indulge, I'll end with the last story in the last chapter of the book,
Of
which
course.
is, again, an amazing example of true generosity that came from a 5-year-old girl under the most difficult of circumstances. And her name was Ruby Bridges. And she was asked in 1964 to integrate the previously all-white elementary school in New Orleans that she was being sent to. And this was not well received in the community at the time. And so every day when she walked into that school, there were protesters outside doing all kinds of hateful things, and a teacher waiting in a room for just Ruby, since she was a student of one in that classroom. And one day, as Ruby was approaching the school, the teacher was looking out the window and saw her lips move as she was walking through this crowd of poorly behaved grown-ups. And when she got up to the classroom, asked her what she was doing. Was she saying something to the people in the crowd? And she said, no, I wasn't saying anything to them. I was praying for them. And she said that she did that every day on the way to school. She prayed for all the people that were outside saying and shouting hateful things, that they would feel God's love and God's grace and would feel the sense of light and love that she felt in her heart. And what an amazing and incredible witness and example that is for us of true generosity, true love of humanity, true philanthropy from the lips, literally, of a small girl. And what an incredible example for all of us. So thank you, Rena, for providing us with a great example and a great opportunity to learn more about giving and generosity and philanthropy. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to appear. Thank you so much.
A digital copy available also
Where
for
books
download?
are sold, there is a digital copy available. And actually, I'm in the process of recording an audiobook, which will be out
Oh,
shortly.
awesome.
So, yes, the joke has been Morgan Freeman was unavailable, so I'm narrating it myself.
Okay, that is great. Chris, thank you so much for what you're doing. And to think this is your side hustle, this isn't even your full real time job. I'm like, I don't know how you do it and your husband and a father, but thank you for so generously sharing of your time. I look forward to future conversations.
Thank you so
Let go.
much.